ready to repeat time. And Richard, first of all, thanks for stopping by.
No, my pleasure.
Second of all, what an interesting last week and a half for the Astros. I mean, man, were they in a bad way. The injuries obviously having a lot to do with that, but much needed wins the last couple of days, including a game that almost got away from them yesterday.
I tell you, it seemed like it's like that with the Astros. It seemed like repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse. You know, there's every game you think it's in hand, but it's not in hand. Something goes wrong. But you know what? I see encouraging signs, and I believe in kismet. I don't know about you, but I believe in karma and kismet. The Astros win that 3-2 game a couple of games ago against Seattle. 6 double plays they hit into, but they're still able to grit that game out, and they win it. Then they go, of course, to your point, get up 8-0 against Seattle in the afternoon affair on Wednesday. Only win 10-7. It got very hairy down the stretch. But you come out of that one saying, okay, you know what? Maybe they found a closer. Robert Osuna comes in. He does what he's got to do. Forget all the off the field distractions. Right. He came in and shut that game down. So some things going right for the Astros. And it's interesting, Hector, that we're at this point of the season, and that's what we're doing. We're finding what are the things that are going right. They've won 2 games in a row, and suddenly it seems like the season's kind of been righted a little bit. And that's kind of a weird feeling.
Well, speaking of, before that first win against Seattle 2 days ago, they'd lost 8 of their previous 10.
Yeah.
Do you look at that and say, it's injuries? You know, things are going to happen, and you're going to have struggles when Altuve's not in the lineup, when Correa's out for a while, when George Springer is in and out, or is there a bigger concern there?
Well, I think obviously there are concerns, one of them being, of course, the starting pitching has really fallen off since the All-Star break. You don't know if those arms are a little taxed. That's a concern, certainly heading into September, October, early November, we hope. But you look at those kind of things. But I think, to your point, the injuries have really ripped that team up a little bit. Just the idea of Tony Kemp leading off. No, Alex Bregman's leading off. I'm shuffling this lineup. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. Reminded me of what the Spurs had to do last year when they were just piecemeal all the way through the season. The same with the Astros right now. If George Springer comes back, he came back, got hurt again, missed the 3 games in Seattle. If he comes back against the Angels this weekend coming up, it'll be the first time since June the 25th that the Astros have had Altuve, Correa, and Springer in the lineup. Hector, those are 3 all-stars that you've been missing.
Speaking of the last couple of months, it seems like since early summer, we've been talking about how it's a season of stretches for the Astros. They had the one tough stretch where it was the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Indians, back to back to back to back. And then it was, well, no teams over 500 for the next month or so.
Right.
Then it was, well, they got to be careful because now they get the A's, the Mariners, the A's again, the Angels kind of sprinkled in there. Now it seems like we're going back to that stretch where it maybe lets up a little bit. So maybe some light, maybe an opportunity here and some reason for Astros fans to think light at the end of the tunnel?
You could think so. I mean, I thought, of course, they've got the Angels. That's a team that's been reeling. The Angels have kind of divested themselves of some of their talent, which means they've kind of surrendered on the year. Then you've got 3 games against the A's in Houston, which you would say, man, they're in Houston, that's great, they're home, but they're playing better on the road than at home, so that's interesting. So they've got the A's, again, then they got the Angels, and then you're right, they've got the Twins, they've got the Tigers, but then that second week of September at Boston, 3 games. That's when we take the temperature of this Astros team, because there's little doubt that Boston, by far, the best team in baseball this year.
You look toward this next week, for when we meet again, that you look at and you say, I'm going to keep an eye on this when it comes to this Houston ball club?
Astros starting pitching. I mean, there's obviously, and it's kind of universal. They're just not pitching well right now. I don't know if they felt the pressure of an offense that scores 3 or less runs is having a miserable year this year because that pitching is having to carry them so far. That's a big issue. I think the other thing that we look for, will they establish consistency on offense? They showed a little bit of it, and this has been a problem for the Astros for a month now. They're just not hitting the ball, at least not across the lineup. That has happened a little bit better over the last week and a half. I look at that as well. But I also look at the fact that if history is a dictation of what's going on, last year at this time, the Astros, it doesn't feel this way, same record. Yeah. They were in the same boat. They were 1 game off where they were in the standings last year at this time, lost 4 of their next 7, and then went on that run through September and was hot going in the playoffs. So I think this would be the time that the Astros want to get hot. They want to kind of get their rotation in order. They want to get some mojo going offensively because, Hector, we're 6 weeks away from the playoffs. And once that happens, then you want the Astros to be hot like they were last year. heading into the postseason.
And then a result like we saw last year.
Absolutely.
We will see you next week, my man. Thanks
All
for
right,
the
man.
time.
No, my pleasure.
All right.
Brought to you by Ancira Volkswagen, where a 2018 Passat S is just $16,615. Number 1 in San Antonio. That's Ancira Volkswagen on Bandera Road. You're watching Sports Tonight, San Antonio's only nightly 30-minute sportscast with exclusive sports coverage you won't find anywhere else.